In Matthew 24:4, that's where we read Christ saying, "Take heed that no man deceive you." There are a lot of people out there in this world that would love to deceive you. And it's not always easy to tell which side is which. I mean, what do you do sometimes? It is difficult. Let me use the COVID thing for an example. There are people out there who are really pressing hard and telling all the scary horror stories, and a lot of that's true. And then there are other people on the other side minimizing and really playing it down as though there's no harm, and that's not all true. And so both sides are trying to control your thinking. They're trying to control your emotions is what they're trying to do. And what do you do with that? How do you know? There are a lot of people out there that are lie to you through their teeth and bat their eyes and smile and promise you that they would never lie. The whole time they're lying. There's a lot of deception out there. And folks, I'm sorry, but that's just life. That's, kind of pessimistic, isn't it? But that's kind of the way it works. And now the odd thing to me is the statistics show is that about 90% of people won't even think for themselves. Now you can find a little variation off those statistics, but it's always the majority of people who don't want to think for themselves. Only about 10% of the people are willing to sit down, really balance both sides of the issue and try to find where the truth is. And you know what we say, the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. And very few people want to do that. Most people get all emotionally caught up in whatever side they just happen to fall into, which seems to be a little arbitrary sometimes. Well, they just fall into it. They get caught up in all the emotional hype, and they go just blindly follow. They sell out. They never even think for themselves. And it happens in a bazillion different ways in life. And I'm going to tell you, think for yourself. Learn to think for yourself. 2 Timothy 2:15 says, "Study to show yourself approved to God, a workman need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth." If you're going to think for yourself, then the first thing you have to do is you have to have a basic standard. You have to have a measuring rod of some sort. And I'm going to tell you, let the Bible be that basic measuring standard for you. Now, it's not going to answer every single question you have in life as to when you should retire or who you should marry or which neighborhood you should live in. It's not going to entirely answer those questions down to the detail that you want it, but it will provide you some basic guidelines to help you make decisions that are a little better. And don't hold yourself to a too high a standard. Nobody's going to make every decision perfectly. We're all going to make some decisions and we're going to look back and go, well, that wasn't the best decision, was it? That's life too. But at least you're making your decision. I think there's a big difference between making a decision and just holding my nose up so somebody can lead me around by it and just following wherever they want. Now, if you want to give up control of your life, that's your business. Own it, be responsible, but go for it. But I'd rather fall more in the 10% category and say, let me think. Let me look, let me study, let me find the truth as best I can. And today we're so overwhelmed with information, it can be a little hard to discern the truth on some issues because there is a flood of information. But let's get back to the Bible, and let's just keep that Bible as our basic standard. And absolutely, at the baseline, I'm not going to do anything that violates the biblical standard. That's going to be your baseline. I'm not going to make any choices. I'm not going to go any direction that violates the biblical standard. And that's going to put you on a real safe ground. That's going to be a great starting point. And that way you can keep your eyes open because deceit can come from anywhere. I'm pointing to Jacob here. Jacob, you remember who he deceived? And the worst one, in my opinion, was he deceived his father. His dad was old and blind. And you remember the story, he dressed up like his brother Esau and went in and just flat out lied to his own dad. You never know where deceit's coming from. Maybe your best friend, maybe a family member, maybe a coworker. I don't have to mention politicians, do I? We all know what that's going on, right? Keep your eyes open. Learn to think. And again, use the Bible as your basic standard for learning how to think. And that'll get you off to a good start. And again, you're going to have to dig deeper, and there's going to be a lot more things that you're going to have to deal with, especially in our society nowadays. But this will get you off to a good beginning, and you'll have both eyes open, and you can be one of the few that stand in the 10% and think for yourself, other than just being led around by the various talking heads that there are so many of them today. Well, I'm done rambling. Enjoy life, and as always, have a great life.